Hey there, this is Trevor Crow with Trevor and Friends, and we discuss politics and relationships. You never know what you're going to get on the show. I just spoke with Mary Dobson. She has a Lift Wellness in Westport. It's an outpatient or a group of treatments for young people and some adults, but I didn't mention that it's woman owned and founded, and I'm so proud of her because usually that area's men. Anyway, speaking of amazing and very productive, intelligent women, sitting right next to me is Janet Stone McGuigan. She is our select person here in Greenwich. And just a little background on Janet. She moved here in 2006. She immersed herself immediately in the community. She has served on the RTM, on the board of League of Women Voters. She's been on the PTA Council. Now she has a degree in engineering and economics, correct, at Cornell, and a master's in public policy at Harvard. We love Harvard. So anyway, welcome, Janet.
Thank you, Trevor. It's always a pleasure to be with my friend Trevor. I guess I'm the politics portion of this session.
Yes, you're the politics portion today. But we have a lot of intersection here because we're going to talk about our students, about Earth Day, there's a lot of really good topics that we have to cover that you know in-depth amount of information on.
Absolutely. Well, happy Earth Day.
Oh, thank you. It is a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day. Didn't we get a really gorgeous day for it?
Spectacular.
But the first one was 55 years ago.
Ah.
I was a wee mite. I don't remember it. But yeah, no, it's a beautiful day. And when I'm not sitting next to my friend Trevor, and I'm on the Board of Selectmen, I'm also the co-chair of the Greenwich Sustainability Committee.
Yes.
So I can attest that there are a lot of great events going on this month. I'm not going to try to name them all. I will miss something, but I do want to highlight a favorite, which is the Live Like Luke beach cleanup coming up this Saturday.
Event. It's a beautiful event.
It's beautiful. It's from 9 to 1. I hope everyone comes out for it. It is in memory of Luke Myers, an incredible kid who very, very sadly lost a courageous battle to cancer some number of years ago. So this event is in his memory. But, he really cared about the environment. He was really active in the Environmental Action Club at the high school. And he wasn't alone. His peers and his friends were right there with him. They really value our environment. I am really heartened. I mean, they are our future.
It's amazing. Yeah.
They're incredible kids, and here's another example. So I want to give a shout out to Andy Bramante, who is a high school science teacher.
Hey, Andy Bernati. Thank you for doing all that you do for our kids here in Greenwich.
Well, he mentors young science researchers.
Yes.
And so here's an example. 11 middle school students from the Greenwich Public Schools entered the Connecticut Science and Engineering Fair.
Gotta love that.
11. Well, 10 of them were environmentally related. 9 of them actually got awards.
9.
Yeah. No, this is incredible.
11. Greenwich really, again, this is education. We shine.
We shine. And clearly, these kids care about the environment. So I feel like as parents, maybe we're doing something right, but are we doing right by them? That's the real question.
Excellent question.
We might segue into our next question.
Yes. So we have we actually got a rather shocking and draconian cut to the education budget. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that. And last night, the RTM, and you're going to have to explain what just happened, but it was that too is heartening, right? What we heard from the RTM last night. So tell us more about that.
Well, let's first talk about the budget cut. And I think most of the members of our community understand what we mean by a budget cut, but there's still a few people scratching their heads because they're saying, well, this is the biggest budget we've ever had as a town, so how can you be complaining about a cut? Well, so let's just explain go back to October, when the Board of Education, which is a balanced board, 4 Republicans, 4 Democrats. It means that all votes have to be bipartisan, necessarily. They passed a budget that is based on delivering level services.
Level service. Remember that word.
So it's the same kind of, delivery that we got the year before.
But we
that they're
had to,
preparing.
it wasn't increase, but it was to pay for, right,
Well,
contractual
Exactly. So
parts.
as everyone, I think, intuitively understands, every year to get the same thing, you have to pay more,
Right.
right?
And
this year,
it's costing everybody a lot more everywhere, let's be honest.
But this year even more so, because there were reductions from federal funding sources.
There's
now
that.
the town has to make that up, right? We have contractual obligations, right? You know, our teachers, their salaries go up typically 3% every year.
And
right?
we negotiated that a couple years ago, and we can't change that overnight.
We're locked in. Health insurance really jumped.
This is a big deal.
Really jumped this year. Transportation costs went up. Special ed costs went up. Our pre-K enrollment went up. So to get the same thing, our budget needed to get bigger. And so that's the budget that our Board of Education submitted to our finance board. Our finance board, though, said, look, we're not going to give you what you're asking for. And at the very last hour, the 11th hour, on the day of their vote, they decided to cut the budget by $4 million, which is huge.
It's huge relative to the rest of the budget. And again, we're talking about level services, everybody. This is not the BOE went and said, we want the sky and the moon and this and that. We just want to keep us where we're at.
Exactly. There was no warning. I mean, I think that's what is really frustrating to everybody, is
shocking.
Our finance board gave no warning. So that meant during all of the budget hearings, there was no time, no opportunity for the Board of Education to even, contemplate these cuts and explain, well, how might these cuts happen? One member, it was
because did
shocking.
They actually suggest this is here are places that we suggest you cut $4 million out of this budget?
Well, so one member of our finance board said we could zero out the line for substitute teachers.
Zero out the line for substitute teachers.
That
What,
would
because
save-
other teachers don't get sick and can't make it, or their
Exactly.
parents needs caregiving, or
That would
have
somehow
babies?
That would save $2 million, but that's not tenable. You can't do that.
I know most of our schools have a substitute teacher in the building every day because a teacher, for whatever reason, can't make it.
Right. So now our Board of Education is scrambling. They're trying to come up with ways that they could make up a $4 million cut. So some of the things they're talking about are transportation. What can we do to adjust the bus schedule to find ways to cut money?
So this is an area, actually, Janet has some really good deep knowledge because she was on the PTA many years ago when we went to all buses at the same time, 8:30, and a late start. So talk to us a little bit about the history here.
I lived through it. I was on the PTA council at the time. Plus, I had 2 boys at the high school, so we lived it. So let's talk about how we got to an 8:30 start time. Originally, the start time was 7:30.
I remember
which
that.
is terribly early. I don't, as a parent, I
teens.
don't want to. Yes,
it's hard to get them out of bed.
I don't want to go back to that. But the reason we had a 7:30 start time, go back to the 80s when the Mianus River Bridge collapsed and traffic in Greenwich just snarled up.
Amazing. That's history.
That's history. So the high school changed its start time to 7:30 and never changed.
And never went back.
Fast forward, I think it was in 2018, something like that. There was an effort. It was a bipartisan effort, and remember this name, Peter Scher was one of the leaders of this
Peter
effort.
Scher, really?
Yes, and these parents said, look, this is not conducive to our children's mental health
Well-being. They're getting up too early.
to start at 7:30. Now let's be clear, the effort wasn't to get our children more sleep. It was to shift, because of circadian rhythms, it was to shift their sleep.
Got it.
So that they got better sleep. Right? So
this was a bipartisan initiative.
It was bipartisan, right? Now at the time, so we, as a district, we passed this, and we said, okay, we're going to start the high school at 8:30. Now, because of the way that the different start times of the elementary schools and the middle schools and the high school interacted, and the way that the bus routes
You have to
worked,
sequence a little differently.
it's called stacking.
Stacking. Okay, got it.
So we needed more buses, and that added at the time $3 million to our budget.
Okay, so that's a chunk of change.
It's
$3
a lot
million.
of money. So now some of these same advocates for Start Later are saying we somehow have to cut money from our budget. And yet, this was a move forward. If we dialed the start time at the high school back to 7:30,
How much would that save?
It's Ben Branyan is the COO of our Board of Ed. He's saying we could save $2.5 million.
2.5.
But
But you'd have to go all the way back to
you'd have to go
7:30.
all the way back. And so let's just revisit the decision. I was on the PTA council. We actually did not take a position on it because there wasn't a unanimous feeling of, amongst teachers and parents and students. The Greenwich Public Schools actually conducted a survey. The vast majority of survey takers said that their ideal start time at the high school would have been 8 or 8:15.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and at the time, so understood that there was a feeling that we should start at 8:30, earlier. But we did ask the question: well, if you started at 8:29, do you lose all the benefits? And we didn't get a negative answer.
Yeah.
So I think that we could dial back
Maybe
a
to
little
8.
bit.
Yeah, but how much
8
would
or
that
8:15.
save?
Now, poor Ben Branyan is going to have to crunch some numbers. I don't know. We don't know exactly how much money that's going to save. But I think the point is that this is a very painful decision.
It's a
right? This is really, it's not about tweaking the bus routes and coming up with an efficiency. It's really about what our values are and how do we want to support our students. I mean, you're in the space of mental health.
Exactly.
And sleep is a really critical.
And we just heard in the first half of our show, Mary Dobson talking about the mental health, some of the initiatives she's taking that are incredibly important. But our teens are at risk.
Yeah.
They really are. They are already
really are.
stressed out. They've got these cell phones in their hands. They've got too much going on, and I'm not sure switching their circadian rhythm is a good idea.
Exactly. I mean, like I said, maybe we can get some efficiency, but we are not gonna get $4 million of cuts.
$4 million in cuts.
No.
Okay. What
So-
else are they proposing? Because we're still a long way away from making that number.
We're a long way away. So, and this is another very, very troubling decision. And like I want to just point out, the schools don't come under the Board of Selectmen.
This is a good point, which I don't think most people understand, that you guys really don't get to weigh in. It really is
not our
BOE,
lane.
and they are separate, and then
Exactly.
they interact with the BET, the Board of Estimate and Taxation.
Exactly. So I am commenting as a former member, of
You're just
coming from
institutional knowledge,
yes.
parent.
Yes. For our our listeners who can't see, I've got a lot of gray hair. I've earned my
Me too.
institutional memory. But yeah, and I have confidence that our Board of Ed will make good decisions, but they're going to be hard ones.
They got to do the best they can.
They're going to be hard ones. But so another thought that they've pursued is a pay-to-play approach to school athletics. Now, you were a former, champion ice skater.
This gets me. I'm like,
think about the intersection between athletics and well-being.
mental health.
Yeah.
Young people who play sports have better leadership, they collaborate better, their bodies are in better shape, their mental health is better. For us to ask some families that really can't pay for their child to participate in athletics, it's heartbreaking. Personally, this gets me because I know how important athletics are for kids. People need to get out and move their bodies during the day. You can't just sit all day inside and under fluorescent lights.
Absolutely. And let's also be honest, as parents, we know if your child plays a sport, or for that matter, if they're in the band or the orchestra or the choir, you're already paying a lot.
Yes.
This is not, a free
all of these
program. They're expensive.
Your parents have to get involved and really pay. But what I get concerned about when I hear something like that is there's a cohort of students whose parents really don't have the wherewithal to pay for yet another thing.
Well,
and that's what breaks my heart.
And let's get to that. So, I forget what the exact percentage is, but something like over 20% of our high school students
20%, everybody
qualify for free or reduced lunch.
And I do think this is sort of a part of the way we think here in Greenwich, that we wouldn't have 20% of our population in our schools that will need, reduced lunch or paid for lunch. We do. We have a broad group of socioeconomic backgrounds and capabilities here in this town, and we have to support them.
We do. I mean, I'll advocate wearing a different hat. We have public housing in Greenwich. We are a much more diverse community than people realize. So the exact numbers are, I think that below the poverty line is something like 7% of the Greenwich population.
7%. Mm-hmm.
But then up to the 30% are what we call ALICE, which is asset limited, income constrained, employed. Mm-hmm. A very fancy acronym meaning basically working poor. That you're living from paycheck to paycheck. If you have one unanticipated
bill that could, an emergency, go to the emergency room or something. Even in today's world, your pet gets sick, that can cost you quite a bit of money.
Exactly. So for those families, if a child wanted to play football or be on the swim team, that's a real burden. And don't forget that a lot of our students, this is not just a pastime. This is like their ticket to college.
Right.
Like
could
they
be
get
scholarships. Right.
So it has been suggested that by taking on a pay-to-play approach, the schools could save $2 million. But do we want to do that?
And I don't know if that's a savings. I think in the long run, it's a real cost to the community, cost to our kids, cost to future education. I just don't see that as a savings whatsoever.
Well, and don't forget, there are a lot of booster organizations at school. Full disclosure, I was one of the band boosters co-president.
I'm
back
not
in the
surprised,
day.
Janet.
I can't say no to anything. But yeah, so these parents do put a lot of effort into raising money.
There's some very generous parents out there, yes.
But they're still self-funding though. That's the truth of how these things work. And if community members are helping them, it's still something of a voluntary tax.
Yeah. It's a voluntary tax.
This is not easy.
Yeah,
and then
it's just
I'm
a sports fan. Yeah. I really want kids to run around and move their bodies, and again, because there's so much screen time today, that this is even more important than ever before.
Absolutely. So the last thing that the Board of Ed is discussing, but I hope that it doesn't come to this, is laying off teachers.
Laying off teachers. Janet, stop it. I can't. Because I know our teachers are overworked, overwhelmed. That just breaks my heart.
Well, it would so impact our students. And really, this is how we treat our teachers who we're entrusting our children to. So to get to a $4 million cut, that represents 40 teachers.
40 teachers.
That's a lot.
I
can't
know.
I just can't even contemplate
constrained
it.
as it is. And just the other piece, I know that we don't know enough about this, but we are going to get cut on special education from federal funding. There's so many areas too that we're going to have to make up some of these shortfalls.
Yeah, because we can't, that's a mandate. Special education is a mandate. We can't, it's not optional. We have to provide it. So if we don't get the funding for it, we have to make it up.
This is, such a huge problem.
So yeah,
cutting 40 teachers is just mind-boggling.
I hope we don't even have to think about it. But a member of the Board of Education I talked to said, well, let's just go down that rabbit hole for a minute and say that we do. It's too late. The kids.
That's right. Everybody's in their classrooms now.
Yeah. Well, the kids have already picked their classes for next year.
Oh, for next year already.
Yeah.
Correct. And you're now like doubling class size if you
if-
cut 40 teachers? Like,
I mean, I don't even know how, I can't even think about it, but if the finance board really wanted to pursue this, they should have, I mean, and
it
all,
wasn't
in
done
all
with
due
the most
respect to our,
intentional. It feels, I hate to use this, but it feels Doge-like in an effort to look for waste and fraud. And we're in a situation where our schools are very, very tightly run. Beautifully run, by the way. The people who work in our schools are absolutely dedicated. They love what they do, but they get overwhelmed too. And I'm not sure we appreciate them enough as it is.
Yeah.
And our kids are our future.
Yeah. Well, and people move to Greenwich for the schools.
Exactly.
I mean, our schools buoy our real estate market.
Yes, they do.
So, yeah, I mean, so what do you do?
What are we going to do?
All right. So you alluded to it last night. The
Yep.
representative town meeting passed. It's called a SOMER, a sense of the meeting room.
Which I kind of love that acronym, SOMER.
SOMER. It's an opinion. It's a statement that comes from the RTM, and it's, in this case, it was directed at the finance board. It's non-binding.
But it's specific to the finance board
It's
regarding
specific.
these education cuts.
It is the RTM saying, please, finance board, reopen this vote.
I like it. Just reopen it. We're not saying, you can't say yes or no, because correct, the RTM can only vote it in or out. It can't make any actual changes.
Well, so the RTM, when the budget comes to it, it can approve the budget, it can vote it down. But if they vote it down, we revert to last year's budget, which is smaller.
That's right.
It actually makes us worse off.
Okay.
They can cut the budget, but they can't add back in. So there's a little bit of a power imbalance here. But that's what happened last night. I mean, SOMERs are not something that the RTM passes,
Often.
often.
But apparently it
It's
was
powerful.
rather overwhelming if I look at the numbers here. What were the numbers?
So 147 members voted for it, 37 against, 14 abstained.
That's
overwhelming for an RTM.
very impressive, strong message being sent to the
Right.
BET. Correct?
Exactly. So anyone listening, if you want to add your voice, let our finance board know, that you agree with the RTM.
Now, where do you suggest people send emails or call? Like, what is your recommendation for anybody listening to the show and concerned about these cuts?
To the finance board.
To the finance board.
Like I said, the Board of Selectmen, we can't do anything now.
Yeah.
It's now out of the RTM's hands. So go to greenwichct.gov. You just follow the prompts and send your messages to the finance board. As you said, Board of Estimate and Taxation.
BET. And
Yeah.
I don't. Would you suggest somebody like we've discussed 3 areas of cutting? Maybe you put your preference. First, cut this, or don't cut. Like, do you suggest anybody?
Personally, if it were me, I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be able to make that call. I would simply say, "Don't cut." But to that point, the Board of Ed, like I said, is now in the mode of trying to figure out how these cuts can happen. Whatever the finance board hands them, they're going to have to figure out how to do. They have to operate on a balanced budget. And the Board of Ed is meeting Thursday. It's going to keep meeting regularly. So again, tune in. And if appropriate, let the Board of Ed know what your opinion is. And so there, it's greenwichschools.org. And again, follow the prompts.
So I just want to remind everybody that we started out today's show talking about Earth Day and then the cleanup at the beach. Luke,
Live Like Luke,
who a Greenwich student who died very young, but has left this legacy of cleaning up the beach. And by the way, I've been to this several years. It is really a beautiful thing to see how many people do that, show up and start cleaning up. And I always thought it was pretty clean over there, but I was appalled by how much I saw it getting picked up. And then we talked about a group of young scientists, a group of kids from our school system, because they've been influenced by this one teacher, Andy Brumanti, and they won 9 awards.
Yeah. And they're all all of these science projects were environmentally related.
Environmentally related.
They are our future.
This is our future, people. And I do believe one of our greatest our responsibilities as a community is to provide a loving, caring community that really supports these kids in all ways, whether it's a start time that is maybe 8 o'clock, right? Please, people, all kids should be able to play whatever sports they want to play, right? That makes me so worried. And we need our teachers.
Yes. We love our teachers.
We love our teachers. So we've got 2 minutes left. Is there anything else you want to add to? What a great conversation, Janet.
Oh, thank you. Well, while I'm here, I'll just make a plug.
Plugs are good.
Yeah. So we're shifting from Earth Day, but this Friday, the YWCA has its Stand Against Racism.
Stand Against Racism at the YWCA.
No, it's from the YWCA, but it's at Town Hall.
Oh, at Town Hall. Pardon me.
Town Hall Meeting Room. It's Friday at noon.
Town Hall Meeting Room, Friday at noon, Stand Against Racism, brought to you by YWCA of Greenwich, who do beautiful work across the community. So very appreciative. Well, Janet, such a pleasure. If anybody wants to look up Janet, you can find her on our town website. You can see even more of what she's done and participated in. Don't forget, I am Trevor Crow. This is Trevor and Friends. If you have thoughts, comments, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook. We're now on Spotify, so share and follow. We'll be on Substack pretty soon, but we really appreciate your listening in today. Have a really great day and happy Earth Day.